Seymour Hersh with a giant story about how the bin Laden raid actually went down in Pakistan. So, of course, the U.S. government's super angry, and so are all the protectors of the establishment. White House spokesperson says there are too many inaccuracies and baseless assertions in this piece to fact-check each one. Okay, now let me translate that for you. He got some of the things wrong, so I'm allowed to say that there was baseless assertions, but I'm not going to fact-check each one because some of them were incredibly right. Okay. That's how that works. Michael Morell, who was a former CIA deputy director, is a little bit more clear. He says it was, quote, all wrong. Okay, now we'll hear more from him in a second. Now, remember, NBC News has a source that was also a very senior official, possibly a former CIA director, saying, not all wrong. Yes, the Pakistanis knew where bin Laden was. Yes, they kept that information from us for a long time. And yes, it was a Pakistani intelligence official who wanted to collect a $25 million bounty and turned in bin Laden. Okay. Now, Peter Bergen is a CNN national security analyst. He's very upset. He says that the Hersh piece, quote, reads like a Frank Underwood from House of Cards has made an unholy alliance with Carrie Matheson from Homeland to produce a Pakistani version of Watergate. Now, Peter Bergen, of course, would like to be dismissive of Seymour Hersh because he wrote a whole book, Bergen did, with the official U.S. story. So if it turns out the official U.S. story isn't exactly right, that means his book isn't exactly right, and that means he bought the official story hook, line, and sinker. Oops. Okay. Max Boot, with a appropriately right-wing name, says, Cy Hersh is a far-left fantasist and conspiracy theorist who once every few decades breaks real news. Yeah, I mean, only My Lai Massacre, Abu Ghraib, among many others. Can you name bigger stories? By the way, he also participated in the Watergate story. I believe those are among the largest stories ever broken in those years. Okay, so now let's go to critics who are on tape. Go back to Mike Morell, former CIA director. Let's hear him out.
Is any of this true?
It's all wrong. I started reading the article last night. I got a third of the way through and I stopped because every sentence I was reading was wrong. The source that Hersh talked to has no idea what he's talking about.
You know who the source is?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But the person obviously was not close to what actually happened. The Pakistanis did not know. I talk about in the book how we actually made a decision. The president made a decision not to tell the Pakistanis. The Pakistanis were furious with us. The president sent me to Pakistan after the raid to try to start smoothing things over. Pakistanis did not know. This article is wrong.
He suggested there was a single Pakistani official that got $25 million for telling you.
Not true.
Yeah, that part is true. Okay, but remember that the part that Mike Morell said in the middle could also be true. So it could be possible that Pakistan knew where bin Laden was, but never shared that information with us. That we had a single Pakistani intelligence official come in, want to collect a $25 million bounty. So that when we went to do the Navy SEAL raid, it's possible that the government of Pakistan didn't know and that it was a dangerous raid where the SEALs risked their lives, etc., and they could have been shot down. But both of those things could be true. Now, Seymour Hersh says, no, not the case. Mike Morell is certainly wrong about the walk-in. We already have confirmation that the walk-in did happen, but he might still be right that Pakistan didn't know on the night of the raid that we were coming. Okay, now, here's an interesting part. Now, there was a whole heap of folks on Fox News as well saying, oh, no, this is the one thing, Obama's right, Obama's right. Now, that's curious. Why is Republicans and Fox News saying Obama's right? In fact, here, let's go to John McCain. He's going to tell us how right Obama was as well.
Andrea, you put me down on the side of the statement made by the administration. I simply have never heard of anything like this, and I've been briefed several times. This is a great success on the part of the administration and something that we all admire the president's decision to do. So I'm not in the business of knocking it down. I'm going to have a lot more persuasive information before I would believe that. And I cannot diminish the fact that the president and his team did the right thing here.
That's interesting. Now, rarely do Republicans and Democrats agree in Washington, and the mainstream media, when that happens, delight in, in celebration. I, on the other hand, think there's something curious. Watch your wallet, watch your back if Republicans and Democrats agree. And in this case, they're both like, no, yeah, official story is definitely right. Why are people questioning it? No, we got bin Laden in exactly the way that we said, and I'm glad they did. CIA got that movie Zero Dark 30 made. That was perfect. That's exactly what happened. Okay. Methinks they doth protest too much. All right, now we go to Rob O'Neill. He's the guy who claims to have been part of Navy SEAL Team 6 and that he shot bin Laden himself personally. He's rather pissed at apparently Seymour Hersh's version of events. Let's go to him.
He says there was no firefight.
Yeah, well, when I was first sent this article, I thought it was a joke. This thing is so ludicrous, it's almost an insult to the word ludicrous. And him to write this ridiculous story, it's a comedy.
Were there agents with you?
No, absolutely not. We didn't tell anyone we were doing that. Well, I'm sure that my friends that got shot at and almost took a few bullets in the face through the doors would disagree with them there and be a little bit insulted that he would suggest that, especially because he's never really risked his life for anything. All he does is, have bad sources and then prints garbage. This story it took me a long time to read it because I had to put it down. I couldn't read the nonsense. When he said some stupid line about we kicked his blank and then we took his gas. Who talks like that? Professional operators don't talk like that. There was no ISI in there. There was 3 men. We killed 2 of them down, one in the guest house. We killed 1 on the first floor, and then we killed Khalid bin Laden, the son, on the stairs. And then we went up into the room. I saw Osama bin Laden standing on 2 feet. There were no ISI up there. I shot him in the head twice, and then I shot him again in the face when he was on the ground.
I'm going to come back to that last part in a second. But here's the guy saying, no, absolutely not. By the way, the government is now investigating O'Neill for possibly leaking information that has intelligence value. I mean, is there more classified material than what happened during the bin Laden raid? And this guy's all over television talking about it. They just put away a CIA officer for 3.5 years for leaking information to a reporter. And in this case, O'Neill's like, duh, what does this, Seymour Hersh do? He just writes about things. Yeah, he's a reporter. That's his job. Okay. So O'Neill's, if you ask me, there are fishy parts to his story for legitimate reasons like NBC News reporting certain things. But my one little aside here, Hersh didn't talk about this. This is just me, okay? You remember in this scene, both as they described it after it happened and in the fictional account, the 0 Dark 30, that obviously I'm slightly obsessed with, anyway, where they whisper the guy's name and he turns around and then they shoot him. And that was a particularly clever thing that they did. They're inside the compound, the Navy SEALs say his name. I always thought, like, that always stuck with me, like, how did they pronounce it in the right way in Arabic? Or, our Navy SEALs are that fluent in Arabic that the guy might think that that was an Arabic speaker who was reaching out to him? I don't know. It's a tiny, tiny little thing. Don't make anything of it. There's no source behind it. That's just my speculation. All right, now, Seymour Hersh is going to strike back at O'Neill. Let's have fun.
I mean, there are actual members of SEAL Team 6, Matt Bissonnette, Robert Neal, who've gone public, have said that the raid did in fact happen basically as the government said. Their comrades put their lives at risk, were shot at in the compound. Right. There were bullet holes all over the place. Are you saying they're lying?
I'm saying, I can tell you one thing, I don't know about O'Neill. And Neil said we went in thinking we were going to die, which I think is a great exaggeration. And Bissonnette, who also wrote the book, I think No Easy Day or something like that, certainly was not telling the truth about that. Absolutely. I think that his book there was a lot of stuff interesting in his book, but there was a lot of stuff, operational stuff, that everybody, most of his fellow SEALs, sort of laugh at.
Damn. Okay, that's a throw. Now let's go back to O'Neill.
Did Seymour Hersh contact you?
Oh, absolutely not. I'd love him to, though.
Why would you love him to?
I think his story would change a little bit because talking like that in person can be different.
I love that implied threat. Look, any way you slice it, doesn't really matter. Navy SEAL Team 6 was brave no matter what. Look, you going to fly into Abbottabad? Okay, remember one of their copters crashed. They could have all died on that copter, right? So all this is brave no matter what. The question we're trying to arrive at is, or the answer we're trying to arrive at is, what actually happened that night, without trying to impugn anybody's character, in my estimation. Now, finally, like I said, I want to go back to something O'Neill said, because it ironically seems to prove Seymour Hersh right. Now remember, one of the principal allegations in Hersh's new story is that we executed bin Laden, that in fact we could have tried to bring him home alive. Later, the U.S. military acknowledged he did not hide behind his wife and he was not really reaching for a weapon. They just went with, well, he had a robe on. We didn't know what was under the robe. So O'Neill, in that first video you saw of him, said at the end, quote, I saw Osama bin Laden standing on 2 feet. There was no ISI up there. I shot him in the head twice, and then I shot him again in the face while he was on the ground. I don't know about you, but that sounds like an execution to me.